I didn't even think about it. A lot of times it slides.
I just
sideways.
like to be able to unpack your stuff once and see multiple things. You ready?
Yeah.
Call to order the regular meeting of the Tonganoxie USD 464 Board of Education for Monday, March 4th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We need to amend the agenda. So we're going to move item number 1.6 up to replace item 1.4, Mitch Loomis THS roof replacement. So we're going to reorder that. And then we need to add action item 5.4 to declare March Youth Art Month. Do I have a second to approve the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So with that, Mitch, you're up.
About to do something. No, I don't. As soon as I said it. All right. So what we're talking about here is roof overlayment on the 2005 portion of the high school. And so included in this graphic right here, you can see the two parts of the high school that were not part of the bond project. The third one being the old gym, which was redone in about 2017. So the shops are a metal roof. That's where you see the two. And then basically the T-pack and the surrounding hallways are number one, which is the mod bit roof that was installed in 2005. What led us down this road was kind of a no obligation roofing assessment from, a company that just kind of happened to come in at the same time that we started seeing a couple roof leaks happen. We've got a pretty bad one in the band room offices, and then we've got a new one that is in the main hallway in front of the T-pack, just outside of the new admin offices. And so it all has kind of just come to the conclusion that we're about 20 years on this roof, and we are due to start looking at options to replace it. One part of the roofing assessment was them actually grading every roof we have in the district, from the elementary school, middle school, and high school. And you can see here section 1 was graded out as a D, and we'll scroll down here a little bit. You can kind of see this is what it is. That's kind of what it's supposed to look like, but we'll get a little farther down here and just show you kind of what we're talking about. I think some of just around I think the leak that we have right now in the hallway is coming from a roof drain. It's kind of hard to tell in some of these pictures, but like this one right here, it's got a pretty good sized bubble right there. If you were to stick a knife in that, you would obviously let a lot of air out, where gas pressures just got underneath the rollout. And there's quite a few of those up on the high school roof. Whereas on the middle school roof, we don't see any of those, and that's the same timeline as well. But you kind of see some of our seams and things around our roof vents, vent curbed. And then here's a big one right there. You can look down the left. That is a just big old bubble. That is actually right there on the west side of the T-pack, where right over the band offices are, basically. So having a really difficult time right now with keeping water out of the building, and that has kind of led us to where we are to start this roofing project. So where I am at currently is we are engaging roofing manufacturers to take on this project for us. How I got there, I basically called a couple of the guys that I've used as mentors in this whole process for me at other school districts, pretty local here, and talked through their process. And by hiring a roofing manufacturer, we are actually buying our material direct through a manufacturer. So we're gonna take on a few companies and have them come out and look at it, but we're gonna buy material direct from a manufacturer. And when we do that, they effectively act as the CM on the project for us. So when we do select our roofing manufacturer, they will write the specs for the bid. They will manage the project for us, very similar to how McCown Gordon acted on our project. Through that, we don't have to hire an architecture firm to go out, inspect the roof for us, to write the RFP. So we are in the process. I'm dealing with 3 manufacturers right now that I got on the recommendation of other districts that have come out, looked at our roof, have taken some core samples of it, have gotten some basic measurements of it, and are in the process of giving us a kind of a soft preliminary bid on just exactly what they think this would cost. It's not a hard bid, it's not a definitive number by any means, but they're trying to get in the ballpark for our budgeting purposes of what this might cost. And then when we select the manufacturer, the product we're comfortable with, based on other district recommendations, based on performance at some other schools, then we will write the RFP and send it out to bid, and then effectively hire a roofing contractor to do the install for us. So it will go out to bid, then the roofing contractor that is certified to install the product of the manufacturer that we decide to select. And we've got 3 manufacturers that I'm working with right now that we're trying to kind of wait on some information from them to get us those soft bid numbers. And then once we make that selection, we'll create the RFP with them. And like I said, they will manage the project as the CM, create the spec, and do all that work for us. So that is where we are currently. Questions?
Timeline. So what's it?
So
kind
we
of walk
are
us-
shooting for Labor Day is kind of the number I've given them all. The nice part about this is if you're really looking at the scope of this project, it is not over any classrooms. It's over the TPAC, but the understanding, the process that all 3 companies have given us is an overlay. It's not going to be a complete tear out. It's not going to be a lot of construction. It's going to be a board overlay with a membrane over the top of that. All 3 of them are pretty industry standard, I guess, when you're going over mod bit 1 layer. If we had overlaid this roof 20 years ago and we're doing it again, I think then we're talking about more of a tear off and replace. But this is just going to be a straight overlay, which is pretty minimal interruption to the school day. And so it's something that can happen. Obviously, we'd like it to happen in the summer, but just like every other school district, we're kind of fighting for that. So it's something that can happen while we're in school. It's something I don't think is going to upset the day-to-day operation of what we're doing, especially them being able to access it from the rear of the building and kind of tuck in back there. So Labor Day is kind of the timing I've given them. My hope is that we can have a manufacturer selected by the April board meeting. We can bring that manufacturer to you guys for approval, and then once that's done, we can write the RFP and send it out to bid for the roofing contractors to actually do the install, and then receive those bids probably by the May board meeting, and then make that selection in May and get the process going. That would hopefully happen in July, August, possibly into September.
Did we, I mean, we did all that work when we did the bond to kind of identify projects and things that were coming. I know the middle school was on there. Was this tied in with that? Do we know?
So I think in that initial meeting, we put roofs as
Yeah, I didn't know if it was generic or if we had it broken down.
I think we did it pretty generic, knowing that the oldest roofs we have in the district now are the middle school and the existence here. The eye test at the middle school, there's no blistering up there. I think they graded that as like a B-. So the middle school is just in considerably better shape. But I think when we did that initial project, we just identified the oldest roofs being basically TPAC, and then the middle school, with obviously the elementary being 2014, and then this building and the old gym being about 2017, I believe. So
does it make, I mean, middle school looks good, but is it 1 year from needing done, or is it needed 5 years from done? Because I mean, it would make sense to do them all.
My knee jerk's 5 years, and if you look at it,
I'm not holding you to anything.
No, I know. I say that, and I'm going to get a roof leak call tomorrow. But it doesn't leak. passes the eye test. The professionals are up there and they said it looks good. I think it's something that we need to plan for in a 3 to 5 year window, probably just based on, most roofs are 20 years, and so 20 to 25 is really maxing out their life. And so I think it's something in a 3 to 5 year plan, but it's something I feel pretty comfortable standing up here telling you that the middle school is going to be fine for at least 3 more years, if not 5.
Yeah, I'm more like,
Yeah, do it all at once.
I don't know if it impacts the price or not. Maybe not. Maybe this is big enough that, and the other one doesn't do anything because they're different locations, but
Yeah, so what I kind of brought up in some of my discussions with the contractors is, okay, let's just say we want to even dial it back to like this roof is pretty chopped up as far as areas it's in. Like there's the top of the T-pack, there's the east side, and I'm like, okay, what if we just had to do small sections? And they obviously were not wild about that because it would drive up the cost a little bit. I didn't really engage the middle school conversation. I think that's my feeling is if we do the middle school, it needs to be something we approach next August to do the following summer, where we know we're on somebody's schedule for starting
summertime.
at June 1st, and it's going to be we have a pretty confident substantial completion date of July.
That kind of makes. That makes sense. I mean, who all is going to be involved? I guess in selecting the 3 companies. I mean, I know we can pick
So that's kind of what
service arrangements.
Yeah,
ourselves without bidding that, but
our thought. I mean, I could probably bring them all in here and have them give you a super wow presentation, and they're all going to get up here and tell you that they have really great product and it's going to be cost effective. Ultimately, I think I'm leaning on a lot of the recommendations I'm getting from other school districts there, and probably chat with Lauren a little bit. But I'm open for whatever. Obviously, anything we do to slow the timeline down is going to slow the timeline down. But I don't feel the urgency on this because it is something I think can happen during the school year. So I'm kind of
yeah, I didn't
here
know
to
if
present
maybe
that process to you guys and have you
The
maybe
board.
tell me what you're comfortable with, and we can work with
should
it.
sit in on that or not. I mean, in the
Well, there's obviously
last few
some
years
cost
we had
associated
George
with it.
or
We're
Drew
gonna
sat
get-
in a
we're gonna
lot
get-
of those things in the past. But
We're gonna get budgetaries from the manufacturers, so we'll
Yep.
at least know
Yep. So you'll-
directionally where the manufacturer is.
So there's
cost-wise.
a possibility that they could all come in at $550,000, or one could come in at 3, one could come in at 9, and one could come in at 6. And I think that is where it would get a little bit. I don't know if that help or hurt, but they are going to deliver a soft base number, for us to budget with, and then I think from that and district recommendations, we can make a pretty good assessment on what we think the best course of action is going to be.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be picking them based on who's the cheapest.
No.
We want the quality.
I think you want a quality product, and I think for me a lot of it is let's go find a roof they put on 15 years ago and talk to that district and make sure that roof's performing. And I think it's making sure that we obviously aren't getting the cheap product that we're going to be working on in 10 years. Warranty's another big one. Talking to a lot of these people is how they honor their warranties, and when they do have issues, are these companies standing by the 20-year that they told you when they installed, and things like that too.
So I'd also be curious about warranties when you're putting a product over a product that's failing.
Yep. So
I have reservation about that.
Sure. And they all are warranted. There's not going to be I think 20 years is pretty much the number that all 3 of them have thrown at me. So they are all I don't even say fairly confident. They're all confident that this is the process for a single layer mod bit roof. And again, where it fails is, so their process is they've taken core samples, they've drilled into the roof. They'll do an infrared scan of the roof to make sure there's no moisture hanging out underneath the mod bit layer that they're going to overlay, so they're not overlaying moisture. It's pretty dialed in to making sure I think that we can be pretty satisfied with the project and product. And then there'll also be some expansion joint caulking and things like that on the up of the building that we'll probably attack with this project too. That's going to be a very tiny line item considering all things, but just the general preventative maintenance of this building is ready for a facelift.
Well, kind of to Chris's point, though, I mean, I guess once we get the manufacturer here selected and we're bidding the roof, I mean, I guess I'd be kind of curious if it's better product, if it's removed and then layered over, because,
Yeah.
I mean, we have money left over from the bond, so we're not, I mean, we do 2 layers now. In 20 years, well, of course, who
And
knows, maybe somebody's tearing down the school. But, I mean, I assume it's more costly to take off 2 layers down the road than it is 1 layer today.
There's probably some truth to that. In the conversations I've had with all 3, they have all, again, they are all like, this is the way you do it. Then I think we could either engage all 3 companies to ask that question. Okay, what's a tear off? Is it going to extend the warranty? Is it, I think that's a question to ask. Either we could ask all 3, or we could make the selection and ask the one. I don't think anything's off the table. The only thing the tear off probably does is create more of a construction site versus the timeline of the overlay. But I mean, it's not out of the question.
Well, I'm not a roofing expert, but if I've got water penetrating through something,
Yeah,
I'm got reservation to think that it's dry, 100%.
sure. And that's, again, I think the infrared scan is where their answer is to that question, which
Right.
brings me back to if they stood up here, they're going to tell you the same thing. It's a composite board that goes over it with a membrane product very similar to what's on this roof here, very similar to what we put on all the new high school and what's on the old gym. It's that kind of TPO rubber gasket that then gets sealed up everywhere, goes up some of the walls and things like that. So, but I mean, it's certainly a question worth that. We're not at the point tonight at all where we're making any decisions. I think we're just trying to give you guys the information so we can ask that, and then we can come back and with where we need to be.
Is there anything that needs to be done in the interim between now and said roof?
Depending on how we walk out of here, I think there's probably some repair that needs to be done. I mean, it hasn't rained in a couple weeks, but every time it rains, I don't want to set a dumpster underneath the office and have ceiling tiles falling. So we will probably engage a very low level repair or sealant for the current situation. But with multiple leaks and multiple swells up there, I mean, this is a good time. And like I said, we know where we're at financially for some of these projects, and this is one we identified. It's just come to light a little quicker than I think we thought. So.
Is there any preventative maintenance that we do or should do on the existing roofs like the middle school?
So in these conversations, we obviously, I mean, they'll sell you anything you want. But I think there probably would have been a slight repair to some of this. I'll tell you, in the 4 or 5 years I've been here, I don't very often see the same leak twice, which is, I don't know why that. I mean, water's going to find the path of least resistance, but I very rarely, what's led me here is I've seen the same leak twice. Very rarely do we see the same leak twice anywhere. It's just kind of an odd the way the wind blows, and so I think there is you could engage a service contract very similar to how we take care of a lot of things with the PM and have somebody come out here and look at it. And I think that's probably worth our while on some level, and that probably doesn't need to be a biannual inspection or anything like that, but I think every 3 to 5 years it probably wouldn't hurt, especially with our new surfaces, and obviously if we refinish this one. So
Okay.
pretty similar to what you're looking at here, actually. I think is probably what it'd be. I think even at the elementary, they've identified a couple little things that we could probably have repaired if we chose that route.
Okay.
Do you want anybody to help sit in on, I don't want to slow anything down, but do you guys want anything?
And I'm happy to share the information across the board, however you guys
Why
want.
don't I work with Lauren and we'll pull in a board member or two just to listen in and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't think we should slow them down, but I mean, maybe if a couple people could be available to sit in and just do things.
We're at the point where they are all working on that soft number. So they've been here, got most of what they need. So the next meeting will be them coming in saying, okay, here's the soft number. So I can set that up around what works for you guys too.
And they're all quoting that 1 and 2.
They're just one. Two is just the shops, and that's a metal roof
Oh,
that
okay.
we
Sorry,
shouldn't
sorry.
have to mess with for a very long time.
So just 1 for now.
Just one. We are only talking about top of the T-pack and then the surrounding. That's
Hallways.
on the east side. That's the high school old locker rooms. The north side is obviously that frontage hallway, and then the west side is the band room and band hallway.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So sounds like we're moving forward.
Yeah, sounds good. No, I'll share that information when they start coming back with it, and then I can work with you and Lauren and make sure we get that information in front of whoever we need to, so.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Do you want a custodial update?
Oh, yes.
Just while I'm here.
Sorry.
We weren't trying to chase you out. Sorry.
No, you did.
Keep
I
going.
got a parent meeting waiting over there. It's not my
Yeah.
favorite thing in the world to do. So, no, I don't have a whole lot on the custodial update other than it's gone really well. We have cycled through a few employees, but it appears ATS has kind of found a pocket of people that they're bringing through here. The only complaint I've really got is that they're using too many chemicals, which I don't know if it's necessarily a complaint because that tells me they're actually cleaning. We had a few hiccups early on with just missing rooms, vacuuming, and things like that, but the management on their side has been really good about communicating with us. I've even received a few teacher compliments since then, which I don't know if that's them just going out of their way to try to help the process or, but I really have not received a whole lot of complaints in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I feel like through 2.5 months of this, it's actually gone pretty smooth. So I just wanted to update you guys on that as the selection we made last time. So.
Well, I noticed there was more visibility at the high school, with the transfers.
That has made that's made a big difference too. I think there was nothing we were like major we were missing, but there's just things we could have done better. And now with more people, we're doing them better, and I feel better about that. And obviously, I think for the longevity of our buildings, that's a plus. So, all right, now I'll leave.
Now you can leave.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Heather Rowe, Spanish Department International Trip.
Hi there. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you tonight. Luis Medina wishes he could be here, but he's home with his 6-month-old. I offered to watch his 6-month-old so he could come here, but he opted out. So a couple of months ago, well, not quite that much, but about a couple of months ago, we had a fun interactive experience in my classroom, a shopping day that Superintendent Fieldcamp enjoyed or joined us for, where the students got to do open their own little tiendas and shop with each other in Spanish using the vocabulary we had practiced and that we had kind of worked up to this day, right? And when we were talking as a class after that, in reflection, all of the students agreed they wish we could do more activities like that and wished for more immersive experiences. So that's kind of kicked off conversations between Mr. Medina and myself about what could we do to help these students become more immersed in Spanish language and in Spanish culture. Now, I have been super impressed with Tonganoxie High School in just such a reciprocal that it is for students who are studying abroad. This last weekend, we had one of our international students move in with me and my family, which we're super excited about, Anna. And as I've talked with her and other international students here, all of them agree that studying abroad or having an immersive experience is life-changing. While I was in college, I studied abroad in Costa Rica myself, and that was truly a life-changing experience for me as well. There's nothing better than being there and feeling the weather and smelling the smells and tasting the food and speaking with the people to develop a true and genuine love for different cultures and experiences. So that sort of got the wheels turning for Mr. Medina and myself, and we thought, could that be possible in Little Tonganoxie for our students to have the opportunity to go somewhere to have an immersive experience? So we started talking with other teachers about some of the national trips that have been doing, the Washington, D.C. trip that's coming up this spring, and asking about other districts and what they have done. And then we started looking at different companies. First of all, just touching back on these benefits of educational travel, there is an understanding and appreciation that can only be had through actually experiencing it. I know that from personal experience. As far as personal growth and increased confidence and competence, the kids would have to work for this privilege in order to be able to go, and there is a confidence that comes when you have to stand up and speak in a language that you are not comfortable with. I can speak from experience as well. And then, of course, the language and cultural immersion that I talked about, and also just life skills. There is a degree of maturity that will be required of these kids for them to attend the trip, and I'll be talking more about that later on in the presentation.
And it also enhances college and job applications. And in fact, 92% of students who have traveled report their experience had that long-lasting impact on their worldview. And we also see educational impacts as well. They generally score 19% higher on their SATs. They hold GPAs that are generally 23% higher. They're 32% more likely to attend college if they have had an immersive traveling experience for education, and they're 61% more likely to be employed full-time, which I think are all statistics that bode well for the idea of it being a good educational experience for our students. There we go. Oh, I pushed the button a lot of times, so now there was probably a delay and I might have messed it up. We looked at a ton of different companies. These are 3 examples of different companies that we looked for. The first one was EF Educational Tours. Right out of the gate, I ran across a couple of really negative reviews of recent tours that had been had by EF Tours that sort of steered me away from them. Also, their tours were more expensive for similar products. ACIS Tours, also a lot more expensive, and Go Educational Tours had very few options and significantly inferior insurance coverage. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but the Explorica, which we ended up landing on, has the best and most comprehensive insurance to protect our school and liability than anyone else in the industry at this time, which is super appealing to me, along with those lower prices than everybody else. One more thing that I wanted to, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so why Explorica? A little bit about the company that we did land on. They have more than 55 years of safe travel experience. More than 1 million travelers have used their company. Tours to 75 countries on all 7 continents. And excellent value. They are truly fully inclusive, quality hotels, meals, and activities, and they do guarantee the best price, which means if we find a compatible tour with somewhere else, they'll price match for us, which is actually really hard to find. They also have that comprehensive liability coverage that I mentioned a moment ago. Their liability insurance is the largest in the industry at $50 million, and this policy extends coverage to the program leader and chaperones, as well as the school and the school board, all of you. There are incredible tour directors who are professionally trained, multilingual Explorica tour directors. They are essentially there for us when we get off the plane, and they are with us for the duration of the tour, which is fantastic. They specialize in student travel, and the local experts bring the destination to life with the group for 24/7. They are literally with us all the time, which is a great, weight off of our shoulders when we're thinking of having our students there with us. So, exceptional safety record as well. They have proven systems in place for all levels of operations, and a worldwide network of support, local staff and partnerships. And it's these local staff and partnerships that also offer them the ability to offer us lower prices. They have these partnerships because of their repeat service with them, and that offers discounts for Costa Rica in particular, and others. And then they also have a proactive risk management 24/7, no matter what time of day or night it is. Us as chaperones, as leaders, and the tour director, the tour guide down there can call and have help instantly all of the time. They are truly unmatched in the industry. The program leader support, there we go. So with Explorica's chaperone to student ratio is 1:5. So for every 5 students that attend, 1 chaperone attends for free, which are great numbers, especially when we're thinking of responsible high school students. I feel very confident with that. The program leader will identify the chaperones for the program, which means myself and Mr. Medina will select those chaperones meticulously and carefully to make sure that they're adults who we trust implicitly. And then the program leader support, they prepare program leaders to confidently lead their trip through program leader training trips. This is the only company that I saw that does this. They have training webinars, teacher-to-teacher mentorship programs, so they can connect us with other teachers who have done similar trips and can talk to us about it, and we can ask questions. And resources throughout the process, such as recruitment materials, parent meeting PowerPoints, and pre-departure presentations. So they're super comprehensive in training me and Medina as program leaders to make sure we know exactly what to expect and how to prepare our students to be safe and get the most out of this type of trip. Tour directors are specially trained. Guides give each group are with each group throughout the program, and they devote 100% of their attention to the students, as I mentioned earlier. So the tour itinerary that we're considering today is for May 19th through May 26th of 2025. Those dates are flexible. Pending school board approval, if there's a reason we need to change those, that is fine. But day one, this would be 8 days in total. Day one, we would, one of my students, or when somebody asked me, would you drive there? That's hilarious. No, we would fly into San Jose, meet our director, and check into our hotel. Day two, we would visit Arenal. Arenal is a volcano that's constantly erupting at night. You can see the pieces of molten rock, like falling down the mountain, which is super fascinating and exciting. There's a coffee plantation visit, which is one of the key crops of Costa Rica, and then we would travel to Arenal. Now, there's a ton to do around Arenal. So day three, we would visit the volcano and lava trails. Lake Arenal, we do a kayaking tour. There's also a hot springs visit. And then on day four, coastal Punta Arenas, a crocodile safari, free time at the beach, and then there's an optional horseback ride. I've been so surprised looking at these itineraries how much is included for the price, really, truly. Day five, another day at coastal Punta Arenas, which I've also visited and is exquisite. We would get to volunteer at a wildlife rescue center for some hands-on experience with the animals and nature there in the rainforest, which is incredible. And then for day six, Manuel Antonio, which I've also been to, a guided tour through this national park. And then on day seven, to finish off with something super exciting, a canopy zipline tour, which I've also done through those jungles there, and it's incredible. These kids would love it. And super safe. Safety first. They take you through a very detailed, instruction before we even start any of that. And then we would travel to San Jose, have lunch, and then there is an optional folklore evening where they would tell us some of the local folklore and stories. And then day 8, end tour and come home. So that's just a brief overview of some of the activities that's there. Now, what's included in that is pretty much almost everything. Round trip airfare, all on-tour transportation, accommodation in triple or quad rooms with private bathrooms, full breakfast and lunch daily, hearty, authentic dinner daily. So our kids can plan on all of it being there for them. Entrance fees to attractions per itinerary are also included, sightseeing tours, city walks per itinerary, full-time professional tour director, as we've mentioned, and then an online tour diary where students can record, have a specified place to record their experiences. And then also 24-hour emergency service, like I mentioned before. The traveler responsibilities, these costs vary and are not necessarily included in the tour fee. This is what is not included. Acquiring a passport and visa, which would be required for Costa Rica, which is also can take up to 6 months. So it's nice to give these kids plenty of time to put that in order. Travel to and from the airport for departure and arrival back home. Tips for our tour director and bus drivers, and then spending money for the optional excursions, free time activities, lunches, beverage, snacks, and souvenirs, all kind of those things. And then the traveler responsibilities. There is additional protection that travelers can choose to purchase to protect their experience, $16 a day, which covers for the child a traveler's injury, sickness, death of a family member if they had to go home early, theft of their passport or visa, flight cancellations due to strike or bad weather, loss of luggage, personal effects, trip cancellation or trip interruption due to covered reasons such as covered sickness, illness, or injury, and trip cancellation or trip interruption due to a terrorist act as defined by their insurance. And then Travel Protection Plus is all of that plus a little bit more. The child is also covered for everything in the standard plan, plus also a cancel for any reason protection. So if you cancel your trip 48 hours or just 2 days or more before your scheduled departure, you would be reimbursed for 75% of the non-refundable cancellation fees, less the deposit and insurance premium. So for passports and visas, they are needed 3 months prior to the departure date, which again, my sons just got their passports. It took us 6 months to get them from the time we applied to the time we got them in the mail. And they need to have these passports in hand 3 months before travel. The application process, they say takes 8 to 12 weeks, but I just did that, so I know that it's longer than that. And of course, there's busier times of year. Since requirements vary for each nationality, we recommend all travelers verify the individual requirements for their nationality with the local consulate for all the countries to be visited. And our Explorica helps do that for us. That's not something that we need to worry about. They find out all the information and give it to us. There is an option to place academic credit on this trip. It's obviously not required, but students could be given the opportunity to complete assignments before, during, or after the tour. This option also provides the opportunity to earn credit if we wanted to put it that way. That's an option. And that's for any grades who goes. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So this is one thing that I also love about this company that I didn't see with any of the others. They have payment plans that make it more possible for more students. You can pay in full enrollment upon registration, which is fine. If students enroll within the next, I believe, 30 days, they get $150 off of the price for the early enrollment discount. A second option is an automatic monthly payment plan. So they just pay a $50 deposit upon registration, and then the rest of that balance is divided into equal monthly installments, and payments are just charged automatically, so they don't even have to think about it. And then there's also the manual payment plan, which has a $99 deposit paid upon registration, and then that balance is divided into 4 installments until it's complete and payments are rendered manually. Now, one other thing, and if I haven't gotten through there yet, but one other thing that's really cool about this is each student is essentially given their own website with their own link. So a student can say, hey, for my birthday and for Christmas this year, I'd like family members and friends to donate to my Costa Rica account. And they can just go in, they just send them the link, and they go to their website and can very easily deposit money into their account, which is kind of cool. So there is personal fundraising page, like I just mentioned, and then the financial assistance need-based support for qualifying families and confidential application. A confidential application process can be made for that. One neat thing about these guys too is for every student that attends, you get a certain number of credits, and over time, those credits can turn into scholarship funds. So, for instance, if we did this trip next year, we would earn credits that the following year could be applied for scholarship money for a student who maybe qualifies academically and that we feel strongly should have the opportunity to participate, but maybe doesn't have the funding in order to do that. So we love that idea that you can also build scholarships by participation in the program. How to enroll, they make it super easy. They can enroll online or by phone or by mail by completing the packets that they provide for us to give out at a parent meeting. And student safety is, of course, my first priority, Mr. Medina's first priority, and Explorica's first priority. Student requirements, they must have a B grade or higher and be enrolled in Spanish ideally. Students must also have a recommendation from all of their teachers assessing their academic and behavioral performances. We are not interested in taking students out of the country who we can't trust to give a hall pass to go to the bathroom. So we want to check with not just each other, but we want to talk with all of their teachers. For cheer tryouts, they just sent out a form similar to what we would like to do, where all of their teachers would respond to a form and assess their behavior to make sure that these are trusted students to keep them safe while we're gone. We would like to take a group size of 10 to 25 students. We're thinking in increments of 5 because, like I mentioned, for every 5 students who attend, 1 chaperone can attend for free. And then really, like I mentioned before, a careful consideration of not only the students, but the chaperones as well, so that all of us, everybody back at home can rest easy. And that's the end. What questions do you have?
So kind of to brief the board on this, we visited with Bonner Springs, who sends quite a few groups. I'm not sure they use this company, but a lot of international trips. And so Cody put together a non-sanctioned trip request form.
Yes.
So this is a tried and proven form that's been used. I think it's also important to know that there is no, what you're really asking for, and Cody, you can kind of help me on this, is for the Spanish club to start the process of fundraising, and what's the other one, Cody?
Advertising.
And advertising.
Advertising.
And that's there's no financial obligation from the school district. It's not like that at all. Yeah, go ahead.
If it's non-sanctioned and we don't vote, or we wouldn't be voting upon it, right? Because if it's non-sanctioned, we wouldn't vote.
Go
for
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
So it's non-sanctioned. The vote is for this non-sanctioned activity to advertise in our building and to participate in fundraisers that we typically give to clubs of our building or teams in our building.
So are we held liable at any point if something happens if we voted upon?
It's
I'm all about it. I just want to make sure
it's
that
not.
we're being.
Go ahead, Cody. You're good.
Well, so, and this is something, so we work with Bonner Springs because they've gone through this process more than us. They have had their lawyers, which I'm sure are KSB lawyers, look through this, and this is the approach they take to keep the school district separate from the, ultimately what ends up happening is this is an organization, and Mrs. Rowe and Mr. Medina become private contractors for that organization to host this trip, and so it is separate from the school district. They just need a vote for permission to advertise and fundraise.
It's
And-
the same as the Washington trip,
Yes.
basically. They're just a separate group that are,
Right.
you can choose to go, but the school
Right,
isn't
but it has nothing
promoting
to do
it.
with the school and
or liability.
And Heather's talking about, like some of these, like vetting students. Again, it gets a little gray because of the overlap, but ultimately that is just a process that they are taking on. That is not a school process, that is their process
Yes.
that they are taking on as private contractors with this company.
Yeah, so as the private contractors, we would have the right to protect our own liability and being selective about who we take with us on the trip.
So you're right. The only other thing I was going to say is, talking to Bonner, they thought the transparency piece was important. This is why we had you come here and
Yes.
present this, and along with the forms, that they're using. So it's just more, I would guess, it's more just transparency, so that everybody knows, what's going on over the next 13, 14 months.
Yes,
15
and
months.
ideally speaking, like I said, the earlier we give students the opportunity to sign up and enroll, the smaller increments they can pay this $2,750, $2,750, right in that range. Might have been $2,769. It's on the paper. But breaking that into smaller pieces makes it more accessible to more students.
What if through your fundraising, you only raise, say, half the money?
So
does
there
that-
is a sort of a sliding scale of how much you would lose based on when your trip is canceled. If for any reason, like let's say a student this year who has been a great student this year says that they want to go and they make their deposit, and then by mid-year next year they've paid some money into it and have, let's say, are failing Spanish and have started behaving in ways that would not be appropriate for us to trust them on the trip. Then there would be a portion of their money that they would lose, but like they said, there's the traveler's insurance that they can purchase to get most of it back. And that risk is going to be presented up front. For our next step after this would be to put a date and a time for a parent meeting. Medina and I would, with this permission from the board, we'd be able to advertise it to our students and, make it a school-wide advertisement for parents who are interested in their children to participate in that type of experience to come to a parent meeting where everything that I just shared with you along with details of that financial commitment would be presented.
Do you think there would be a situation where you would have to exclude, so could you get too many kids? Where you had to decide, I've got 90 kids that are all
Absolutely.
appropriately behaved and blah, 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 but I can only take 25.
Medina and I feel strongly about with this is our first time. We want to take baby steps. take this off in a small bite. So Medina and I are not super comfortable with taking more than 25 for our first round. And so if we have 90 students who are interested in going, then we can ask for essays, or we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but we would figure out a way to appropriately pare that down to 25. It's okay for us as the contractor to say there are 25 slots available.
Do we have some, I mean, with this DC trip and things, I can't remember, do we have like a disclaimer that, I mean, it's non-sanctioned, but this isn't the school or the school board's trip?
Right, and to be honest with you, so that trip has been, that started before I got here,
Yeah,
so
I'm
I
sure.
don't know what is shared, but it's the same, so it's through EF Tours is the company that we use for that, and it would be the exact same setup that this is, with this company, Mr. Tiroff, same access, that private contractor. But I couldn't tell you that I know for a fact that disclaimer is given by him verbally. I would imagine it has to be within their paperwork that they sign, because this is a pretty standard operating procedure for these companies.
And essentially, it's a double coverage, right? So with the disclaimer where we're saying it's a non-sanctioned school activity, there's one layer of protection. And then Explorica, one reason why we chose them is because of their liability insurance for the school and the school board and us who are going as chaperones and student and leaders and staff.
I can tell you that Bonner spoke very highly of this process. They've done a lot of tours.
And not had any problems
No
with that.
problems.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the schools around us have been taking trips
Yeah.
with their students outside of the country,
Right.
which I think is a good opportunity for those students who are performing well and
Yeah.
behaving well.
As we've tried to think of, where do we take kids in Tonganoxie for immersive
I know
experiences,
Baser
right?
took a
There's
group
not
to
a ton.
Japan
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
really?
this last year.
Isn't that
Yeah.
neat? Yeah. I'm fairly new to the area, so some of this is new to me, but very exciting. Any other questions?
We're not ready for the action item yet, but the action item as it's written is that the Spanish Club has the ability to advertise and fundraise for a non-sanctioned international field trip. So that's the action that we'd be taking tonight. Does that align with?
Well,
That's what we wrote.
okay, we may want to change that from the Spanish Club.
Yeah, because we're
Well,
not
that's
an
it.
actual club.
Right.
It would be the Spanish department, wouldn't it?
Well,
Spanish
no, it
de-
wouldn't be.
Oh, it would be the school.
It wouldn't be us. It would,
Okay.
it
Oh.
would be you and Mr. Medina.
Okay,
So
this is Heather
how-
Rowe and
Yeah.
Luis Medina.
Sorry, we should have probably.
So how do you want it stated?
That Mr. Medina and Mrs. Rowe have just replaced Spanish Club with.
Okay,
Our names
gotcha.
as the contractors for Explorica,
That is
right?
what we wrote, but we probably should have changed. As I
Okay.
hear it now, we should change that.
Okay.
Okay.
He's getting there.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, last report, Mr. Witt, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Blazo on early release.
So, Brandy, why don't you have you come up here first, and I'll kind of introduce this. This has been a long process of evaluating, the needs of our staff. We brought Brandy on board, and you've done some evaluations and have been experiencing some of this. These discussions for early release have taken place internally for quite a while with the elementary, middle school, high school. And so I think more than anything, we want to be here to answer your questions or concerns. I don't know if you want an overview of what this looks like. I don't know if you need additional information, or we're here to basically, talk about how this will affect, I think our academic performance in the future. I mean, that's a large part of this. So, is there anybody, you have anything, Brandy, that you want to add at this point before we turn it over to the board?
I think that the one pager does a really good job of really succinctly laying it out, the reasoning behind needing this, the efforts to get elementary on the same page as the secondary in terms of working at a PLC level that we can actually have some conversations and actually do some deep dives into vertical teaming as well on that same data. So I think that the one pager did a pretty good job of that, but if you guys have any other questions on those.
I guess, has everybody had a chance to look at what we call the one pagers? That's what we were asked to bring back. We did that with both early release
Yep,
and
and the
with the middle school schedule that Casey and Hayes have been working on. So, go ahead.
So that we approved this, and then it just, I mean, do we change our calendar to make different, I mean, if we're shortening this to get the minutes total for the year, or hours, or whatever it is, it maybe stretches out some more days somewhere, or how's
No,
our
we have that actually in the way you calculate it. It's in a spreadsheet that has calculations provided by Kansas State Department of Education. And part of that, the way they count days, count minutes and hours, your professional development or your team time counts as half. So if we have a professional development day where we're learning things that will help our students, that counts as a half day for our students. And that's the way it's always worked. And our professional development days count now as half time for the students. So what we're looking at in this early release time is just dismissing at 2:15 for elementary and middle school, which is just 45 minutes early. And then high school would be 2:30, which would be 30 minutes early. So half of that time that our teachers are devoting to their professional learning communities counts toward that student count time. So in those calculations that we have looked at, we've put it to the test with the state formulas. We actually have extra snow days. So we are meeting adequate time above and beyond what we need to.
But this shrinks the number to, I mean, we still qualify, we wouldn't change anything, if switching to this doesn't change anything from one year to the other, but it limits a little bit of what the kids are in the classroom.
Student
But
contact.
we don't have to make that up, it's student
No.
contact.
Nope. For the high school, it actually changes nothing because they currently have late start. We're just flipping the script to be early release. So their time does not change whatsoever. And what you always figure, every building keeps that same log of time, but the way the state counts it is by the building with the fewest number of minutes. And that has traditionally been the high school with that late start. So theirs changes nothing. Middle and elementary is just that 45 minutes once a week. And even plugging all those numbers in, the minutes still add up, student contact minutes still add up beyond that required 1,116 minutes or hours.
So I know that you said that you've discussed this internally. I feel like it would be beneficial to kind of get an explanation of the issues that we're having. I think it's maybe the elementary school focused,
Calista, why don't you come
just so that people
can hear that.
could understand it in the public, because I don't know that this has been communicated outside of
So
this group.
could we act like the benefits of this? Is that what you're looking for, Ryan?
So you're
More
looking-
like the issue that we're trying to
The
solve
challenges
for.
that kind of brought all
Yeah.
of this up. Okay, so currently at the elementary school, our teachers get a 50-minute plan time every day. And out of those 50 minutes of plan time, we expect them to have a PLC 1 day a week, which takes away one of those plan times. And it also, a lot of our grade levels team plan. So they meet again a second day of the week to team plan. So that means they're really only getting 3 days a week of their plan. And even with that, we have IEP meetings, different other kinds of meetings that come up, student meetings, those kinds of things. So by developing this plan and allowing them to have a designated time from 2:15 to 3:30 at the end of the day, it affords them to have their plan time every day. So it gives them that individual plan time, where at the middle school and high school, they have 2 plans a day. And so when you look at elementary school teachers, who most of them are doing 5 preps, when you look at it that way, they have science, social studies, language arts, English, and reading and math, 5 preps a day, and we're taking 2 of those plan times a week away from them to be able to do those things. So then that started this internal discussion of how can we develop a plan to support them, give them back their plan time, and yet still have those rich academic conversations to be able to develop academic programs for our students, really look at the data to be able to establish what the students need, develop our MTSS process or our multi-tiered system of support for intervention time. So that's kind of where the process started. Does that make sense?
Have you looked at any options that would allow that hour of time for the teachers, but not, I guess, burden the parents by an
Right.
early release?
Yeah, one of the challenges that we face with that is just the sheer size. Like, we have 3 grade levels that have 8 sections each right now. And so we have looked at other ways, like incorporating our counseling team into a rotation, or our library into the rotation. Some of those challenges are, if our counselors are out, we don't have subs for them. We don't have subs that do social emotional lessons. So that kind of took care of that. And also,
Could you have a sub do a social emotional lesson?
it's a little bit challenging with that, just because some of the conversations that may come up, or those different types of things, a sub may not be comfortable or licensed to discuss. So that's one of the things we looked at. Plus, our blocks are 50-minute sections, and to do a social emotional lesson for a kindergartner for 50 minutes is very challenging. Even our specials teachers split that for especially PE and music, because it's just a lot for a 5-year-old to be in that setting for 50
Could you split a
minutes.
library and counselor time in 50
That was the other thing that we looked at and discussed, but we have a library aide, we don't have a librarian. And so that library aide does not have the experience to supervise those students for that given amount of time. And again, we don't get subs for our library aides, so if the library aide was out, then the teacher would not be able to go to that special that day. Oftentimes, if they're out, then the students just don't go to the library. And right now, when we do have library time, it's about 15 to 20 minutes, 1 day a week. And the teachers have to stay in there with them, because the library aide isn't certified to supervise students. So that's some of the challenges that we've come up with. We've tried to be
Another
creative.
layer we looked at, Stephanie, was the possibility of adding specials. You know, how could we make that happen? Let's use PE, for example. We just don't have the sheer size of that building. We just don't have enough facility
Right.
to make that happen. So we looked at that too. I mean, as another option.
Right, and you'd honestly have to give us specials for, 8 classes. So we're looking at 150 kids in our biggest grade level class. So that would have to be somewhere to accommodate 158 students for an hour and 15 minutes to be able to support that time. And, when a teacher has planned time and they drop their students off at drop off, they, have to use the restroom, they gather their stuff, they meet, they're really only meeting for maybe 35 or 40 minutes by the time they have to leave to go pick up their students and do all of those things. So just as they're getting into those rich academic discussions is when they're having to stop to go and pick up their students from specials.
I'm assuming this is like a this is a no cost option. Is that kind of what
Exactly.
this is?
Because if we would have went with extra specials, it was an increase in staffing.
Yeah, increase in
And
FTE.
we're not positioned to do that. And so it is a no-cost option, yes.
So then, on every one of these early release days, I assume all staff members participate?
Yes, all certified teachers would participate in that. So our SLPs, our classroom
So
teachers.
they're not racing out of the parking lot? at
They're not
2:50?
racing out. Their contract time is until 3:30, so they
Okay.
would be there to have those discussions.
All right.
And so we had planned it to where we would start at 2:15, and we'll have our aides and paras and those support staff to help us with dismissal, so teachers can get as quickly as they can into those PLCs.
And the handouts that you have some accountability pieces in them. So there's the PLC data meeting protocol for ELA and math. So these are the items that they go through each time during their meetings. There's also a calendar with the different colors there of what topic would be addressed on each of those Wednesdays. And then there's also a data tracker for the formative assessments. So each meeting that they have, they would be filling this information out. And there would not be folks racing out of the parking lot.
Right.
So there is the accountability. piece built in.
Accountability. We know how important that is. That-
So do we measure how effective this is over time and,
Will we?
yeah?
That,
I think we would
absolutely.
see it in our academic success, because our teachers are going to be able to have those rich conversations to talk about how do we move our students, how do we get them to improve academically. So we should see through these discussions and this designated time that increase in academic success.
And how soon do you think we'll see that?
That's the big
What do they say,
question.
3 to 5 years?
I like to say the 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
is a really good measurement because you would see a full cycle that is not just your I'm trying things out and then a full cycle where you're actually implementing and then a full cycle where you have seen and we are going. And we have years of that student who has had multiple years of implementation go forward. So I would say 3 to 5 years.
Have we talked to polled parents? Like, I'm concerned that we're 5 months away from a new school year. I'm not saying that we don't need more time. I know more time is helpful. But I feel like this is gonna be shoved really quickly down parents really fast. I think we need to poll parents, talk to them, get some feedback from them. I know we have the YMCA thing, but I don't know what it's gonna cost parents. I don't know if we have parents who can afford that. So I feel like we need to give some more time for parents to notify them, let them know this is a possibility, and not put it into next year.
Yeah.
That it needs to be another, we need to have more time for people to plan for that.
And one of the reasons that we did this district-wide is because we know a lot of our high school students pick up at the elementary or provide that after-school care and those types of things. So we felt it was really important to have the middle school, elementary school, and high school all on the same schedule. So that way, when students are getting out, if a parent relies on a high school student to supervise after hours or whatever, then that's still an option for them. That's still something that's there, put in place. So we felt like when we all three discussed it and, internal conversations and everything, we felt like it was really important to keep that consistency across all 3 buildings. So that way that was an option as well.
I think one thing, Stephanie, of pushing this off a year is, I don't want to underestimate how valuable this is to the elementary teachers. This is hugely,
I'm not
I mean, so,
saying that
and
it's
I'm not sure a year from now we'll be in any different position than we are here in the 1st of March. I mean, we're almost 5 to 6 months out for parents to make adjustments by August, the middle of
I'm
August.
just thinking of some parents that may not be able to afford, that they work in a shift to try to be able to pick up their kid, that to me, it's not fair. You need more time to be able to plan that out and think through that.
Do you think it would make any difference a year from now?
Could.
The YMCA has scholarships for those who are unable to afford.
I also feel like there are other creative approaches that we could do, at least try, maybe, to see if they will work within the school without burdening the parents before we do this.
Well, and I just want to also, this isn't just an elementary concern. I worked with, or kind of talked with the board about the direction that the middle school is going. We are still able to move forward with our instructional coach, our interventionist, and our honors program. That is still in forward motion. We do not need to have any additional FTEs or anything like that, so all of that is definitely doable. The one thing that we were really trying to accomplish with all of our manipulating of the schedule was to also be able to have content plan time, so we wanted to build into the day to be able to have math content teachers meet, English content teachers meet, and that's just not feasible with the size of our classes, our 150 kids. It all spends on our electives and how the students rotate in and out of electives. And we tried every angle to be able to build that common content time into the school day, and it's just not possible without hiring new people. So it's not just an elementary concern, it's a middle school concern as well, because the early release on Wednesdays will also be able to get the common time for the math teachers to collaborate, the English teachers to collaborate, because moving forward, if we don't have this Wednesday time, it's not going to be able to be accomplished in the school day. The content teachers would only be able to collaborate once a month or every other month when we have those PD days, the full PD days on the schedule. So we're able to check a lot of boxes moving forward, but the vertical alignment content-wise is not possible without the Wednesday or really early release. So this is not just an elementary moving piece, it's also it would be very, very beneficial for the middle school as well.
And we also talked extensively about how the middle school and the high school staff can have some of their vertical conversations. The transition piece, I mean, even, the math department's talking to the math departments and helping with that transition. We won't be able to do any of that
Right.
without this.
Even looking at the elementary school, we're looking at departmentalizing 4th and 5th grade, so they would be able to have those content conversations as well with our 6th grade teachers, because, we hear a lot of times that when they get to 6th grade, that transition of going from one constant teacher to 6 or 7 constant, changing teachers, that's a big adjustment for them. So we're trying to find ways to work together with the middle school to help prepare our students for that. So when they do get to 6th grade, they're not quite as overwhelmed, and they have some of that experience at a smaller scale under their belt. And we would be able to really discuss that content as well with the middle school, as far as reading and math and what we need to do to prepare our students once they get there.
So I understand what you're talking about. I understand the 3 to 5 year window. But when I look at this calendar, maybe some uncertainties. I mean, we're jumping in head first. We're not testing, we're head first, right? Is there any way to do this 50% of the days and see results? I mean, because this is every single Wednesday.
It is.
I'm asking.
Yeah, and one of the things, I've talked to several other elementary school principals who already do this, and I asked that question. I'm like, what about every other Wednesday, or what about, the 1st and 4th Wednesday of the month or something? And they said that in looking at all of those options, one of the challenges is consistency, because sometimes there's 5 Wednesdays in a month, or if we do the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of every month, then there's not that consistent ability to schedule. So if we do it every week, there's consistency within the schedule.
Another thing there, could I interrupt there? I'm sorry. If you're doing this once a month or every other week or whatever, the teams are gonna be having to start all over with what they're doing as they're discussing what they're doing. Right now, they are just getting into a good discussion when they have to leave. If they have to wait another 2 or 3 weeks before they can have that same discussion, it's just like starting all over.
Right.
Also, I think the sooner that we start this, the sooner we're going to see results. And if we do this just once a month or every 3 weeks or whatever, I don't think we're going to see results as quickly. Also, those teachers who are new or who are struggling and need that support to be able to get together with other teachers and discuss what they need to be doing with kids, we may lose them before we see any results if we don't head into this right away.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, is because, even I mentioned that, we have one PLC day, one planned time, and then our mentor teachers, they have maybe 1 or 2 other times during the week that they're meeting with their mentee to discuss, all of the questions that they have about being in a building or as a new teacher, or all those different challenges that they face every day. So, when you look at our new teachers and our teachers who have been kind enough to mentor our new teachers, they're losing even more of that precious plan time.
But aren't they getting paid to mentor?
They do get a little bit, yeah.
But that still doesn't recover their time.
No, but I'm just saying it
Yeah.
does help them in the fact that they're getting paid to do that.
I kind of saw the need at the elementary, and then you answered at the middle school what that does. Does this change anything at the high school? Because you said they had 2 plan times before. Are you changing something up to?
At the high school, the only thing we would do is flip it from a late start on Wednesday to an early release.
Well, you're gonna have parents and kids mad at you now.
So what?
You're gonna have parents and kids mad at you now.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
I would like to explore the option of staffing adjustment as well. I mean, I feel like we've been presented one option. And, before I could vote on the calendar, I feel like we need to let our district households, our student households, know that this could be an option and allow them to be able to provide us with feedback. This might be the first time that they're even hearing that this is a potential, and it's going to affect their whole next year.
Well, the only thing I'd say to that is I don't really like giving up time, but the only way we get more money and add staff is when we have headcount go up. Our headcount's been flat. So budgetarily, I don't know if budgetarily we're a little challenged to be adding extras. extra staff. And I know,
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
not,
I just
I'm not
hadn't
just saying, I mean,
seen
I'm
the,
just,
the option, no-
And
any,
the
any
num-
numbers around it.
Sorry, and the number of staff that we would have to add at the elementary would be significant just because of the size, to be able to accommodate all of those students to add an extra plan time or to do those types of things. Because right now, when we look at our building schedule, like we're revamping our whole schedule for next year because we need 90 minutes for our English language arts time. I think right now some have 75, 80 minutes. So when we add those specialist times, we're taking away from our core instruction, which is only going to decrease our academic success. So when we're looking at that and we're taking away to add another specials rotation into the mix, we're taking away from that, needed time for our ELA instruction, and that would be more than once a week because you wouldn't have one staff member or 5 staff members come in once a week to do that. It would be a consistent basis.
No, and I totally agree with the need for that collaboration time. I do feel like that's important. I just am concerned about the impact that it could have on, all of our households throughout the district. It helps with elementary school, but it touches every single household in our district.
Well, it seems like this is very sudden, but we've actually been researching and looking at this for several years and exploring every option that we possibly could. We have not surveyed the parents about this because we've been behind the scenes for years working through this, talking to other elementaries, and the elementaries who do this early release, they're all positive about it. And there's just no other way around it. We've explored all the options. We've tried different options. We've gone through different schedules in the elementary that have really messed things up, all because we were trying to avoid this. But we're at the point now to where this is kind of our final, our final try. So, I don't know that a parent survey. I think a parent survey would say that the parents who are going to be affected will tell us that, and then
we'll be right back where we were.
we'll be right. Yeah, but when we put our plan into motion, we all adjust.
So the challenge we all feel was for academic improvement. We feel it. I mean, that was directive from the board for the last several years. We're making every effort to make that happen. And we know that giving those elementary teachers more opportunities for collaboration and professional growth is where it starts. And like I said, I feel very strongly that just pushing this off another year is just another year of non-progress in my eyes. And I think it would be in the board's eyes too.
And it's not, like Casey said, it's not just the elementary, it's, the middle school benefits from this as well. So it's not just the elementary. Yes, we are the ones that struggle with providing time for our teachers to do these things, but it also opens up a whole nother aspect for Casey and Cody district-wide for our teachers to be able to collaborate together.
It does. I mean, the academic collaboration is what we're missing. We are able to provide time for the grade level teams. So our 6th grade teachers, they can meet every day, but we have one 6th grade math teacher or one 6th grade science teacher. They're not able to have those collaborative academic conversations with another math teacher, with another English teacher, to be able to compare data, to be able to work on trying to fill those content gaps. The Wednesdays would provide that for us. We've done a lot of research. We've reached out to a lot of districts. It is common practice in a lot of districts to have an early release time.
Just curious what districts do in our league or around here.
I know
Do an
Ottawa
early
does.
release.
I don't know because I don't know league-wise who's what, but I know Ottawa has an early release.
Ottawa, Lawrence, Spring Hill. I've talked to them. Spring Hill actually brought in a research group to do a study on this, and they ended up going to the early release. Where else?
Gardner is district-wide, and they don't even provide childcare. That's something that they do that every Wednesday.
Mill Valley.
Or is there some component that has to do with our contract and we're not providing the time that we're supposed to be providing? Or I don't know if we're complying with that. I mean, I really don't want to I mean, kinda hate
So
to bring it up, but I think it's a
we-
legitimate question.
We do our best to accommodate that. And so we have gotten creative with including our counseling time because teachers are not required to be in the classroom during that time. So we do utilize that 25 minutes of counseling time to count towards their plan time, as well as we do not require every teacher to go out to recess. So that also counts in that 20 minutes we average into their time. But again, we're taking 2 days away for, PLC, plan time, and then any other additional meetings or things. So when you calculate all of those things in.
Part of this has been if you build it, they will come situation. And if we improve our academics, we could see our enrollment numbers also increase. And in order to improve our academics, we need to put something like this in place. And it is one of those things, right now, we would not be able to get creative with staffing just because we don't have the increase in headcount. In order to even look at doing plan time within the school day, we would have to hire 3 additional staff members. Again, it has to do with that elective rotation. It all circulates around that, and our grade levels. So we have the 3 grade levels. To be able to rotate around that, we would need 3 additional staff members, and that's just not doable at this point.
Well, obviously, you guys, the calendar that we have before you for approval ties directly into early release. It's all configured together. In my opinion, if we approve the calendar tonight, then, we're moving forward with early release. Now, if you are abandoning that strategy, then we are back to square one. And that's where we're at. And that, we.
How many snow days does this calendar figure?
7.
Is that how many we've normally had, or is that more or less?
Depends on the year, but
Yeah, it depends on the year.
around the same. We've had 5, we've had
Some
7.
years we've had 4 snow
Yeah.
days. Some we've had 7. I don't think we've ever had any more than 7.
I'm sure that there's gonna be people opposed to it, and you hate to see kids out of the classroom, but we kinda have to invest in our teachers if we wanna improve our academics, and I think people will adapt. An every other day type thing. My goodness, my kids went to half day kindergarten, red day, blue day. It was the biggest nightmare trying to get everybody there. If it's a consistent I think you just have to be consistent. People have a routine and they like to adjust. But
So I can see both sides of it. I think that if we're going to move the needle, you need to move the needle enough to be disruptive enough to make a difference. 1 degree deviation from the current course probably won't fix it. I think the thing that was said tonight that hurts my head the most is I understand the 3 to 5 years for academic improvement, and that makes sense, but I think we have to, if we were to go down this path, I think we have to have some more interim measures on what success looks like.
I think that's fair.
And they may not be academic success, because I understand that there's a longer tail to that, but to me, it's more about it. If it's not working, we ought to be trying something else, and not waiting 3 to 5 years to say it's not working. All right, are there other questions I know we have an action on this, but are there other questions for the team while they're here? Okay. Next topic. Sorry. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any public comments? No public comments. All right, on to reports. Mr. Feldkamp.
Okay, yeah, if you want to pull mine up, there's been a lot of discussion on quite a few topics, but anyway, At the end of this month, we have new board training that is set up for Ryan, Linda, Justin, and myself. So that's March 25th, and we'll make arrangements this week after spring break. Where we're going to Topeka at the KSB area. Capital outlay planning session, I'm kind of leaving it up to the board president to pull and try to get something, moving there. Hopefully sometime in April or after spring break is where I'm at. I sent out the RSP demographic study, and so I did call in with some suggestions, once again from the board president. What we think we're going to end up doing is, and I called RSP today, we're going to look at either the first Wednesday or second Wednesday of April to invite board members, the city officials, district site council, or community members to come into the PD room for an evening of presentation from RSP. They will come here, show all that information, that we can present to the community in general. And so if we have more than 3 board members, it'll be a special board meeting, and it kind of goes from there. But I can also, use my district site council as a good source, for maybe recruiting new district site council members, but also get the city involved, in this whole process. So that'll either be the first or second Wednesday of April. And there won't be any presentation on the 8th at all from RSP. So we've got plenty of other things to go on there. The SR.
You said the first or second?
First or second, yeah. Wednesday of April. I think that's the 3rd and the 10th.
Yes.
Okay. The SRO contract, we just didn't quite get it all finalized. We were hoping to have that tonight, but it looks like it's probably going to be April. I know the lawyers from both the city and ours are in the final stages, is the best way to put it. Audra has been following that pretty close. I will be organizing the official letter of intent to negotiate with TEA here very quickly. I will share that with board members just as soon as I get that all put together. I think that has to be sent out by the last week of March. We have to share letters of intent to negotiate. My meeting with Randy Corns Greenbush Friday to do another deep dive into our year-end budget projections. We had a lot of legwork to do. All the at-risk funds were reallocated. That was the process with Rebecca and with Audra. So that's all been completed. So we should have a pretty accurate look at where we're at. We also got our audit numbers done. We have those numbers all back. So we have a pretty good idea where we're at. I think March 21st we have an inclement weather meeting set up where we will continue to work on just the inner processes of getting that. You saw the narrative. Now we got to follow up with the narrative and say, right, who's going to what region to drive roads. And so we've got some people selected for that. So we have about 6 or 7 people on that committee working through that. I want to say a quick congratulations to, of course, our wrestling teams who, both boys and girls, did outstanding. I mean, it's the most medals the girls have ever gotten in their short history, and the boys got second with 3 state champions, which is the highest number of state champions we got, and brought home a runner-up trophy to a very strong Rose Hill team who didn't have a senior on their team, I don't think. So they're all back. Let me see real quick if there's anything else. Tanya's going to talk about the strategic plan, maybe YMCA, and just that's it. That's all I got.
Any questions? All right, Tanya?
All right. State assessments are actually in process now. KELPA, which is the English Language Learners Assessment, will be completed by Friday. And then on March 18th through April 19th, that's the window for our ELA in math and for science. History, Government, Social Studies is a classroom-based assessment now, so those dates vary. Those are only for 4th grade, 7th grade, and 11th grade. So each building puts together their own specific schedule, and they communicate with parents as they get to their testing cycle. So that's what we're doing for state assessments. Strategic plan updates. I sent out the draft of the strategic plan to all of you. If you could look that over at your leisure and send any feedback to me anytime now through March 18th, that would be great. And again, it's just for content, so once we get the content solidified, then we'll put it into a package where it looks nice, a nice brochure. We'll have different perspectives to it. We'll have a brochure, we'll have a one-pager, we'll have the executive summary. Then after March 18th, after you've had time to give some feedback, we'll make any necessary adjustments. We'll bring the content back at the April 8th board meeting, and we'll approve that content. Then we'll put in the formatting, graphs, pictures, make it a polished professional look. And then we'll receive that final feedback on the final polishing and formatting, and then we'll just publish it and go forth. We will also have a data dashboard that is on our website so that anyone in the public can take a look at how our progress, how we're doing toward our strategic plan. So that will be ready to go once everything is up and running. The MOU with the YMCA YCare, that is in your packet tonight. We have had, we were sent the MOU by the YMCA. We had our KSB attorney look over it. Then we sent our changes back to the YMCA, and they've approved all the changes that we recommended. So that is in the packet for your approval tonight. Once we get that approval tonight, we'll move forward with the licensing. It is a before and after school licensed childcare. It's through Kansas Department of Health and Environment, so it is fully licensed. And if that's once the paperwork goes through for that, we will begin publicity in April, and then in May their enrollment opens. If you go to the Y Club website now, you can see that they have other programs. The prices for our parents will be pretty much the same, along the same lines as all of the other programs.
And what are those prices?
They range anywhere. It depends on the community. Obviously, if you're in a Blue Valley, they could afford more. So we have not set the specific prices for us, but it will be in the same range. They go as low as like $65 a week to $85 a week, and we would probably be on the lower end of that.
So what if you're only using it one day a week, or is that a possibility?
I'm not sure about the 1 day a week. They do have, when they enroll, it's before only, after school only, or both before and after school. So if they would have the option of just the Wednesday, that would be a different price structure, and they would have to let us know what that is.
So if they didn't, somebody would have to pay $65 to $85 if they only needed the 1 day. They would pay that a week if they only needed that 1 day.
I'm sure they could come up with some kind of a sliding adjustment.
So, but they might have to have additional staff on that Wednesday if they only had 50 kids Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and 150 on Wednesday.
True. They know that we are looking at an early release, so they are planning that in their planning and publicity to hiring their staff.
And where does this take place?
At the elementary. It'll probably be both gyms, and then that commons in the back area where the older kids eat lunch. Those will be, and the playground. Those areas will be licensed, and so they'll come out, they do measurements, they test the water for the correct temperature. I mean, it's pretty in-depth inspection process. They have the snacks, they have the curriculum, they have a manager who's on site, and then they hire adult staff, and then they have assistants they can hire among high school students. So if you're 16 and older, you can be an assistant, but you can't be a lead. These programs are very well run. I've seen them run. I've worked in some back in college even. Very impressed with the program. So it's a good program.
I have two questions. Would we be going forward with a YMCA option with or without early release?
Yes.
I feel like it's a nice option to give our families and our households.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that. The second question I had is related to in the elementary school. I know that there's some teams from the middle school that are able to go over to elementary school to avoid having early morning practices all the time. Would that go away?
No, and I actually talked to them. We did a site walk a few weeks ago, and I talked to the staff about that. They said all they need to have is the calendar of the elementary when those other gyms are being used, and then they would alternate
Move
to the
around.
other gym or outside. So they have a pretty good plan.
That would include the rec stuff too, because I know the rec uses those gyms too.
Yes, and even when we have like our mini cheerleader camp that takes up, you know, a huge space, they'll have plans for that. And most of the areas will be licensed, and then, you know, there's the opportunity to have that area on the stage they can use. And they've worked with Leavenworth County before on licensing, so they're well prepared for those situations.
What are the hours?
The hours were in the packet. So they open at 7 a.m. It's in the contract. It's that.
I didn't see it, but I probably
It's
missed it.
close to the last page, but not quite. Let me
It was
get that over.
basically 7 to school starts
Yes.
and then 3
Yep.
to 6.
7
I
a.m. to
see it now,
7:55, so right before school starts, and then on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, it would be 3:10 to 6, and then on Wednesdays, it would be the 2:15 to 6.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions about the YMCA? They are also offering a summer program. They won't be able to have a summer program here this summer, but there's the opportunity to either have a summer program here in Tonganoxie, so they would have childcare all summer, or they would afford our parents the opportunity to take their children to one of the other YMCA programs. So if I work in, you know, Kansas City and I drive right by Piper, I could drop my kids off at the Piper program. So those opportunities would be available to us as well. And the last thing on the list here is the calendar, the approval of the calendar. There is a statement from the calendar committee, so they are well aware. They have been researching and working with us on the early release. So they drafted this calendar and in full support of the early release plan. That's a vital piece of the plan moving forward academically for our district. So that is their statement, and that's all for my report.
Well, on the one last question on the Y thing, can sixth graders go if you needed them to, or is it elementary only?
The program typically is K through 6.
K through 6.
We told them it would likely be K through 5 here, but if we wanted it to be K through 6, we can certainly open it to K through 6.
Just curious. Okay. Any other questions for Tanya? All right. Oh, sorry.
When you just thought of, you said 65 a week, and that would be for all of the program that before and after school, or is that?
I'm trying to remember what that said, if it was the full. I can pull that up right now.
And do you have any idea how that compares to other childcare in the area? Like, is that?
It's pretty affordable.
Because I'm thinking that I'm thinking my grandkids had like 150. They were paying 150 a week for
Yes.
one child.
Yes, and I haven't paid that for a long time, so personally, I don't know exactly what it is for a current cost for those, but it would be fairly comparable. And just from talking with parents, that's very affordable. And the Y Club, let's see. When I want it to click and go fast, it doesn't want to. Okay, so for example, Y Club at Blue Valley, their weekly fees are $74 before and only $96 after, and $107 before and after. And structures are different. So like the Y Club in Bonner Springs is just $80 a week, flat fee. So Y Club at Crossroads Charter School, $65 before, only $80 after. Lansing is $85 a week, regardless. Leavenworth is $80 regardless.
But that's per kid,
Per kid.
not family.
It's
So if you
per,
got 3 kids, you do that 3 times.
per kid. They may have family discounts. I don't know that.
We don't have our local prices right now though, so we gotta be a little careful with, I mean, these aren't our numbers for our
Right.
program yet, right?
Right. And these are just,
It's a range.
it's a range. And when they had come for the walkout or the walkthrough over at the elementary school, they said it would be comparable to areas in our location. So You know, we're very close to Bonner, we're very close to Piper, we're close to Lansing and Leavenworth, and they're even different. So it would really just depend.
Okay. Other questions, comments? All right, moving into the action items. So action item 5.1 is the academic calendar, which we know includes early release. Pretty hearty discussion earlier, but probably ought to go around the room one more time and make sure everybody has their voice heard on that. So, Jim, you want to start, because I think this is one that.
I know there's probably some uneasiness about this. I mean, it doesn't, but I mean, we did press the administration to improve academics. And I don't know if we have the resources to add the extra head count to do some of the other things. So maybe none of the alternatives are great. This seems like probably the option. I would support it, I guess. I mean, if the staff is behind it. But I'm sure, anyway, there'll be some pushback from parents.
I would definitely support it, and I'm feeling like this is 1 hour per week more childcare than what they're already having. Really, obviously they have to have someone after school if they're working till 5 or 6 o'clock. So we're just adding an hour a week to their childcare, and I think that the benefits of this is going to outweigh any of that.
Stephanie?
I guess I have a little bit mixed feelings. I can see it from both sides. As a teacher, I know the importance of having that time to discuss content. As a parent, I also know that 1 hour for a kid that walks home, that's an additional hour they're at home without somebody supervising them. I know for parents that maybe the budget's tight, especially now, that having to pay for childcare when maybe they've scheduled their job where they're able to drop off and pick up at that time, adding $65 to $85 for them is a struggle. And I feel like that we need to prove to the parents that we've tried everything that we can before we, I guess, take this leap into it. I'm not opposed to the leap, but I feel like we need to make sure that we have done everything on our side to make sure that we are ready for that and have communicated that to the parents prior to doing it.
Okay, Chris?
So I understand the academic part and improving and maybe more time for the staff. I have reservation about jumping into something head first 100%. And the time frame and the holding staff accountable, I think that's great, but I think we better pay close attention to that, and I think I want to see improvement sooner than 3 to 5 years.
Ryan?
Echo what you guys said. I think I know the importance of the collaboration time, and I do feel like we need to explore ways to get that as part of their day. However, I would like to be able to communicate this to parents and allow time for feedback. So I don't know, if that could be somehow accounted for, and we could approve the calendar later, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Karen?
So I understand the importance of both sides. I think, the thing that challenges the whole situation the most is how do we measure positive progression, and is there something we can do to see that we're moving in the right direction sooner rather than later? I don't know what that looks like. But if we're moving in the right direction, that's great. If we're not, what do we do? How do we, if it doesn't get better, what do we do? Do we wait 3 to 5 years? Or do we measure, remeasure, see where we're going, and if it doesn't work, what do we do?
We do approve the calendar every year. There is some accountability to the schedule has to be done every year. That's not necessarily a measurement on the academic success, but we do approve the calendar every year.
I think just to weigh in myself, we've challenged the administration to make sure that we're moving the needle aggressively enough in terms of academics. And I don't underestimate the disruption that an early release could cause, but I also feel like that sometimes when you need to take a course correction, a small course correction won't get us there. So I'm probably in favor of making a bolder move here, with the understanding that we do approve calendars every year, and if we're not seeing the value and accountability, there's opportunities to course correct. So I don't know, Lauren, Tanya, I know you guys have been in the middle of it, but any other comments from you?
Just the incredible amount of effort that went into the planning of all this on a lot of people's parts. And I understand fully that this is a disruption on Wednesdays for an hour. And we understand that. And I also truly believe that the parents will adjust, because the success of the school district, to me, is how we improve academically. And this is one course that we need to take.
I think parents have a hard time understanding how 1 hour a week will change the academic course.
But as a teacher, you know.
I'm gonna say I do know that, but I also feel like that's something that we need to be communicating. While I know you guys said that you were communicating that amongst the staff and the administration here, I feel like that's something that we also need to be communicating to the parents too, the importance of that. And that's if that had been done prior to now, I'd feel better about it. But since that hasn't been communicated to parents, I feel like they deserve the opportunity to give feedback and know about these things before we make a decision on it.
So if the feedback comes back negative,
I think we cross that bridge when we get there, if that's what it is.
Well, once we approve it, it's going forward. But I mean, I think the success will be measured on the feedback next year if it's not working. And then, I do think, though, we need to be pushing out messages immediately that this change is coming. That way people can make that change. This YMCA is a positive thing. Maybe we can, if we had an option for just that 1 day a week, I don't know how many people that's going to benefit. I see this might be a better thing where people don't have to come pick up their kids and they can actually work longer hours and maybe make more money and leave them at the school than affordable daycare. But I think we didn't really, we pulled some examples, but maybe I'd be wrong, but I think communicating what other districts do this.
Well, and their academic success.
And the performance would be useful, because we're not just making this up. Other people have done it, and I mean, maybe if parents knew that would help out. But
well, to my point, I think if you've done this 50% of the time, if we eased into it, I mean, we're all out head first into this. I don't know. I struggle with that a little bit.
I get that, but I go back to the red-blue days. I mean, it all seems to make sense, but you alternate weeks and you gotta have a chart on your wall to know which day you gotta go and what day you don't, and then holidays come, and
But you knew that was coming up too. Like, you knew
well, you know this is coming up. Every Wednesday you're gonna be coming out. Your kids get out early.
But we also, that is 6 months, and I think that parents will have a chance to adjust to that, figure out what they're going to do. It's not like we're starting it next week.
No, but they haven't had a chance to provide feedback either.
Do we give them a month to provide feedback?
I'm just thinking we can do. I mean, we're going to push the calendar out a month later. We could obviously put some communication out to the public. Be very transparent about this whole process. We could do a little more research on maybe some success of other school districts. I think I agree with that. But as long as this is on the table for April 8th, then we could do some of that.
What's at break by not having the calendar approved?
It puts some other groups behind.
Yeah, that's about it.
I've had several requests from other outside agencies who wait on our calendar before they do theirs. So and I've put them off a month typically our calendar would have been in February and we delayed it another month, so they've been waiting.
So I'm generally in favor of this, but I think in the spirit of transparency, and sounding like it's not gonna break anything tremendously if we wait till April, I guess I would move that we,
For me, to ensure that this is a successful push, it's worth doing all those. I'm not saying they're extra hoops, but going to transparency to make sure that we're spreading that communication to our community.
I do have the list of schools who do this. We did this research a couple of years ago when we were thinking about this. So on my list, Spring Hill, Deerfield, Lawrence, Wamego, Eudora did theirs, Valley Falls, Meridazine Valley, Chanute, Hayes, Independence, Stafford, Frontenac, Hillsborough, Ottawa, Prairie Hills, Osborne, Hiawatha.
So none of those
And
that you
Topeka.
listed off are high
Wamego is.
Wamego, maybe.
Wamego. And
But they're not, most of them are not high performing academic schools in the state.
We've been partnering a lot with Wamego on a lot of things that we're doing. For example, when we adopted CKLA last year, they were very much in support of CKLA. They've seen drastic improvements. We're patterning a lot of things after what they're doing, and they are a top tier district.
so I guess I would move that we table item 5.1, pending some public communication. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, unanimous. I do think that we as a board need to be very supportive of Lauren and Tanya in this process. So I know we can't have four of us together without a board meeting, but I would encourage each of us to aggressively help with the communication and participate in the feedback, whatever that turns into. So I think we have a responsibility of heavily participating in that process, given that we tabled this. So.
I think the one thing I will do, Justin, is share with you the communication. Because we want to make sure that we're not sending out communication that the board doesn't agree with, like a slanted, biased
Well, I think
type
I mean,
communication.
you guys took the time to put together a one pager on what it is.
Yep.
We can tune that a little bit, and maybe add some
Yeah.
of the schools that are already doing it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes good sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we should do a poll on 5149 gets
That
it
would-
shot down, because I think, you're gonna hear from the people that are against it. That's just the way it's gonna be, but if some feedback wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. Appreciate
Alright.
it.
Item number 5.2, us approving for the Spanish, it's not the Spanish Club, approving for the ability to advertise and fundraise for a non-sanctioned international field trip. Any commentary on this?
Seems like a great opportunity. You got that motion there.
Okay, I would move to allow Mr. Medina and Mrs. Rowe the ability to advertise and fundraise for a non-sanctioned international field trip. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. All right. Approval of the YMCA contract. Any discussion here? I read through the contract. Nothing in it jumped out at me. I know that KSB's looked at it. It's got a 60-day in writing cancellation. If there's something we don't like about it, it's pretty easy to get out of, it looks like. I'm guessing that it is well more accessible and affordable than most other daycare options, so I think it's probably a good thing. But other feedback?
I think the specifics on the times were maybe related to early release, so if we vote on it, can those be amended? No?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody want to make a motion on that, or do you want me to do it again? All right, I would move that we approve the MOU between Tonganoxie School District and the YMCA. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, we do have an executive session. Why don't? Oh,
The youth art.
oh gosh, thank you. Sorry. Action. Sorry. Action item 5.4. In partnership with the Council for Art Education, we would like to make a proclamation of March as Youth Art Month. So I'm going to read this. The study of art leads to a fuller, more meaningful life, and art education provides substantial educational benefits to all elementary, middle, and secondary students. And art education develops students' creative potential and improves problem-solving and critical thinking skills by reinforcing and bringing to life what students learn in other subjects. And art education teaches sensitivity to beauty, order, and other expressive qualities, and also gives students a deeper understanding of multicultural values and beliefs. And art education advances student mastery in art production, art history, art criticism, and aesthetics. And our national leaders have acknowledged the necessity of including art experiences in all students' education. And the National Art Education Association, in conjunction with Unified School District number 464, Tonganoxie, strives to improve the well-being of our communities by upgrading visual awareness of the cultural strengths of Tonganoxie, Kansas, and the United States as a whole. And the Unified School District number 464, Tonganoxie, have joined the National Art Education Association in supporting the youth of our school district in their intellectual development through artistic endeavors and offering support to our committed art teachers. Now therefore be it proclaimed that March 2024 be observed as Youth Art Month in the Tonganoxie School District. All citizens are urged to take interest in and give full support to quality school art programs for children and youth. And we made it an action item, so I would move that we approve this proclamation. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. All right. I gotta breathe because that was a lot. All right, I would move that we take a 5-minute recess and a 20-minute executive session to discuss non-elected personnel matters. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. All right.
With the
With Mr. Pelican, sorry. reconvene. Oh, sorry. One potential action item coming out of executive session. I would move that we extend the contracts of Mr. Feldkamp and Mrs. Phillips by 1 year pending final contract negotiation by the board president. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any announcements?
Just if we could set up a special board meeting for capital outlay review sometime after spring break, anytime. And then I'll set up that demographic study for the community and the board. And it's, like I said, it's either going to be April 3rd or 10th. Don't know which date.
And we just will need to make that a special board meeting if we got 4 of us, right?
Yep. That'll take about an hour and with questions, an hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.